Greetings, children of the screen. So, I know I'm supposed to be covering my top 5 picks for the worst live-action Batsuits this week. However, there's a new Batman book by Frank Miller out. Remember when we used to be excited when we said that? Yeah, me neither. I can't remember it either. Right on, children of the screen. So, The Dark Knight Returns: The Golden Child, written by Frank Miller with art by Raphael Grandpa, sorry if I'm pronouncing that horribly, which I probably am, with colors by Jody Belair, and letters by John Workman and Darren Bennett. Right on, guys. We open up the book seeing Wonder Woman and Clark's new son, the Golden Child. Anyway, the kid is born. He's super powerful. We start off, like, years later with him and his sister, like, cruising around the city and her kind of being, like, over humanity, while he is very much on his dad's side of, like, no, they are broken and, like, weak and all those things, but they have so much potential and they have so much love within them and so much hope within them. And, you know, the kind of the super, like, cliched but like still relevant argument that we see happening between characters like Superman and characters like Batman all the time, but it's interesting here because we're dealing with the two super kids, even though it's made much less interesting by the previous like installments in the story where we got to see other things with Superman's daughter, and most of us just don't care about what she's doing or saying. Anyway, the main thing that's going on right now is it's an election year, and Donald Trump is running for office. And there are protests and riots that break out, and Carrie Kelly, now Batwoman, in a much better, much upgraded costume from her appearance in Dark Knight 3: The Master Race, like when we finally saw that at the end. Basically, she shows up, and her and all of these sons of Batman basically just quell the riot as it goes on, which then leads them to, like, you know, basically trying to out the people who are actually behind all of this, like, you know, rampant violence and hatred and all these things that are going on, which are the people who are behind Donald Trump's campaign, which we find to be the Joker and Darkseid. So this obviously inevitably leads to a conflict between our new heroes and Darkseid and Joker, and it's a big punch fest, and it's basically, that's everything that you need to know right there. If you know Frank Miller's work and you hear that plot, you know exactly what the story is doing and where it's going. So, in terms of the writing by Frank Miller on this book, I will say that I was surprised, as the writing in this book is not horrible. It's cogent, it makes sense, and you understand what he's trying to say, which is a far cry better than some of the books Frank Miller has written over the last few years. It's also very clear that in this book, we're back to a place, it's not like the Dark Knight 3 Master Race, where that's really more of Azzarello's story with Frank Miller peppering in some stuff here and there. This is very much Frank Miller's story, and you can tell by the writing. You can also tell that it's a story where Frank Miller felt that he really had something to say. And I think that's why we kind of see the best form of Frank Miller in terms of like his form and structure and things of that nature. They're not perfect, but it's harkening back to like a more classic Miller that we would recognize from things like Ronin or The Dark Knight Returns or his Daredevil stuff. Not anywhere near as good as those things, but it's clear that he's trying to get back to that form of his writing. The big problem with this, of course, is that, as always, Frank Miller isn't exactly a subtle man. And his political commentary is not only not subtle, it is quite hand-fisted. And it's made even worse by the fact that it's something people were talking about 3 to 4 years ago. Now, obviously, the stuff with Trump is still a big deal, like the impeachment's going on right now, there's another election coming up, so I can kinda, I guess, see why he thought it would still be relevant, but the actual things that he's pointing at are no longer, like, hot-button issues in the kind of cultural zeitgeist, you know what I mean? Like, we've moved on to other issues, so he's still well behind the time. Now, I'm not saying that if this book had come out like right after the election, it would have been a better book, but I do think that there probably would have been a lot more people willing to get behind the kind of message that he's trying to say and what he's trying to convey, even if it's not being conveyed in like the most artistic or subtle or elegant way. So all in all, I would say that the writing in this book is definitely a step above what we've gotten from Frank in the past, but it's still not amazing. I would give it, I'd say, 6 out of 10. So as for the artwork in the book, I have to say that Raphael Grandpa, and again, I know I'm probably mispronouncing that, he's a badass, man. And, like, not just in this book. Let me just take a second. If you're not familiar, like, not only is he an amazing comic book artist who's done stuff for, like, DC, Marvel, like, he's done major books, but also has had his own books coming out. He's also, like, an animator and an animation director who has, like, you know, tons of projects that he's developed and worked on, not to mention he has a live action, I believe it's a film series. You know, most of this stuff is done, like, out of South America, but, like, he is an extremely talented person, and he brings all of his, like, considerable talents to this book. And I have to say that, like, while this artwork is not going to work for some people, I really loved it. Now, the reason why I say it might not work for some people is what I found in this, as opposed to some of the artist's previous work, is that this actually seems like the artist tried to do a thing where he took his normal style and kind of infused it with some of the more pronounced elements of Frank Miller's art style. Specifically, the hands, the feet, and the faces. Now, while he definitely is emulating those elements, the artwork is still distinctly not Frank Miller style. It is still distinctly Grandpa style. And again, I'm sorry guys, that's the only way I know to pronounce his name. Grandpa style is in the video now. So yeah, it's still clearly his style, but it definitely has that Frank Miller feel to it. It's much more detailed than Frank Miller's style, and the colors that are brought in to, like, aid that really, really work. Now, a lot of the images, because of the amount of detail, do look a little crowded and chaotic, but that is definitely the intent of the artwork. Specifically, I have to, like, absolutely say that I love the new design for Carrie Kelly. Like, her new Batwoman suit is absolutely fantastic, and I love it. It looks dope in every frame. The way he draws the eyes, she looks real mean and menacing, which really works for this character, who's a much more kind of, you know, brutal. She almost has taken on all of the affectations of Frank Miller's Batman from works after the original Dark Knight Returns, where it's more of a psychotic. It doesn't really seem like she's quite as murderous, but she's definitely psychotic and has no problem just, like, crippling and debilitating people and probably killing them, let's be honest. So yeah, the art style works very well for kind of the tone and the type of book that this is trying to be, and it really works well for this incarnation of those characters. I actually think that this style really suits these characters much better than, obviously, Frank Miller's style, or even kind of with the Kubert style that we saw in Dark Knight 3: The Master Race. Like, it just really works for the book. So, what did I think overall, and do I recommend this book? Hell if I know, man. Like, I'll be honest, the book is very wordy, as Frank Miller gets whenever he wants to, like, say something. Like, it all kind of works in this book, but honestly, with as fast as some of the action is moving and as fast as the plot, which there's very little of, moves, it's a very wordy book that, in truth, was a little bit of a struggle to get through sometimes. But on the other hand, the artwork in the book really got me and really kept pulling me through it. So if you're a fan of this art, or you're interested in seeing what an older Frank Miller trying to go back and do the kind of stuff that he was doing 30 or 40 years ago sounds like and looks like, then definitely check this book out. If you're a Frank Miller diehard, you're going to get it no matter what. But I would definitely say that, like, it is an improvement over previous books Miller has worked on, and while I don't necessarily think that it's worth the $5.99 price point that's on it, it actually probably is, with the art in it, and you're getting a thicker book and everything, but, like, I don't know, do I recommend it? Sure. Like, if what I just talked about sounded cool, then sure, go pick it up. If you got the extra money to spare, then check it out, man. But keep in mind that, like, again, it's very ham-fisted. There is no subtlety. And why the hell are Joker and Darkseid teaming up to, like, get Donald Trump into office? Because, in Frank Miller's mind, they're the embodiment of pure evil, and so is Donald Trump. And, like, can I argue with that? Not really, but, like, what's the connection, man? What are you doing, Frank? Like, this, he clearly wanted to do something, and I have to commend him for trying, but, like, try a little harder, Frank. Try a little harder, Frank. We'll get back to talking about this whenever I do my video. I have a video planned in the future for the Batman I Believe In called Is Frank Miller the Ultimate Troll of Comic Books? So yeah, that will be coming next year, and next week we're going to be back to my top 5 picks of the worst live-action bat suits. So thank you guys for joining me. Let me know down in the comments if you checked this book out, if you enjoyed it, if you didn't enjoy it, if you didn't pick the book up. Let me know, even though I already know, why you didn't pick it up. And again, guys, thank you very much. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, share it with some friends. If you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe so you can check out all the Bat-tastic content I'll have coming out in the future. And I will see you guys next week. Same Nerd Scum time, same Nerd Scum channel. Nerd Scum out. Oh, Frank. The shot of the baby vaporizing Darkseid with his, like, nuclear heat vision is pretty fucking dope, though. I will give it that. Yeah. I will.